Emasculating video games. Woke Jesus. The ghosts of Gamergate. Soviet-style censorship. Strong female protagonists. Bad publicity.
We have gone gold.
Fired female writers. 21 kiloton brand advertising. Welcome to The Last of Us 2 copyright scandal, where Sony tries to take over the internet. The situation with Sony and The Last of Us 2 copyright abuse is about more than just this game, the leaks, and identity politics. A corporation like Sony Interactive Entertainment does not back a studio like Naughty Dog and their Gamergate ideologue Vice President Neil Druckmann out of friendship or loyalty. This is about power, controlling the media, money, and maybe a long-term agenda about disintegrating and dividing the gaming community. I think The Last of Us 2 leaks copyright scandal represents the first shots fired in a war on freedom of speech, fair use, and represents a push for total censorship. I have said many times that the video game industry ultimately wants complete control over how its products are represented. They want to own the footage, own the YouTubers, and own the reviewers. They ultimately want a situation where nobody says a damn thing about their products without their approval, and this situation with The Last of Us 2 is basically the part of this plan where the first tanks roll out onto the streets. Because certain political issues will be mentioned in this video, I need to offer a qualification. Just because I don't believe in certain political stances does not mean I believe the exact fucking opposite. I say this now because I see how these debates play out on the internet, so I'm going to neutralise this fucking retardo counterattack before it's levelled at me and the others involved. Just because I think third wave feminism is fucking insane self-indulgent shit foolery does not mean I'm sexist. Just because I don't think straight white men are evil does not mean I'm a homophobe. Just because I don't try and censor everything that isn't politically correct does not mean I support hate speech. Just because I don't think there are 46 different genders doesn't mean I'm transphobic. I'm a fairly middle-of-the-road, moderate and tolerant kind of person. /stalker. I believe in freedom of speech, equality, compassion and world peace. You know, all that good stuff. I do, however, get pissed off when I keep hearing these vicious, extreme, progressive mouth breathers bleat on about inclusion. Inclusivity will probably make the world a better place. However, according to some people, it would appear they need to exterminate everyone different from them to make their version of inclusivity work properly. Well, here is a fucking thought. If you really value inclusivity, then it can't just be for this, and this. I would postulate that real inclusivity should also apply to this, and this. I reckon that if you want to make the world a brighter, more tolerant place, then progressive inclusivity should apply to all of us. Not just people that think a certain way. Because if it only applies to certain people, that's not inclusion. That's a fucking purge. Spoiler alert, this video contains major plot spoilers for The Last of Us 1, and considering I will be complaining about the pretentious identity politics in The Last of Us 2, then the video contains spoilers for that game too, I guess. Seriously, be warned, we are riding into spoiler territory. Naked, on a fucking donkey, with no fucks given, and only a cowboy hat to keep the sun off our scorched balls. If you don't want spoilers for either game, then please don't watch this video. Trigger warning. I only started playing Last of Us recently in order to get fair use footage for this video. A nebulous term in these strange times. I also play like a donkey on console because I'm an Oberleutnant in the PC Master Race. So don't freak out because I'm constantly punching light switches and negligently discharging my weapon. It was this or footage from Farm Simulator 2015. Count your blessings and don't gripe about the gameplay. The scandal over The Last of Us 2 leaks and Sony's assault on YouTubers by abusing automated copyright takedown procedures may well turn out to be the most sinister video game industry dick move of the decade. And we're only 6 months in. They have threatened and endangered people's livelihoods, taken an aggressive stance against free speech, and decided to stand shoulder to shoulder with a game director who is so heavily aligned with woke politics, he makes AIDS Skrillex look like Geralt of fucking Riviere by comparison. In order to make this video, I'm forced to ride roughshod over a lot of territory and likely give nothing the critical attention or accuracy that the topic deserves. This story involves 2 games that I have not completed, copyright laws that I didn't study in prison, and a complex timeline involving several large multinational corporations, many YouTubers, multiple social media platforms, and a witch. And it all took place over many weeks and is still creaking on at the moment. But the implications of these events and the damaging consequences for individual content creators and the internet collectively are so severe, I just had to cover it as best I can, even if I make a few mistakes and omissions along the way. So after you watch this video, you may want to check out the following channels for more information: HeelvsBabyface, Hoeg Law, Upper Echelon, Geeks Gamers, and of course, The Critical Drinker. And maybe, God forbid, do a bit of reading. So forgive me any inaccuracies or omissions as we head off on our magical journey down the path of enlightenment. I will do my best to be your guide. So let's stamp on the accelerator and drive this tanker across the bridge at full speed. And if we hit a couple of pedestrians as we go, well, that's just the price of doing business. So let's hammer through the key players and the core concepts. The Last of Us. The original Last of Us game was a well-received post-apocalyptic linear action-adventure survival-ish game with crafting elements where you shit yourself in the dark while scurrying around to find collectibles. It's set in a world ravaged by a form of zombie infestation based on the real-life Orpheocordyceps unilateralis fungus. This fungus penetrates the exoskeleton of jungle ants, takes control of its behaviour and makes the ant climb to the highest point it can and latch on tight until fungal spores burst out of its fucking head, contaminating the entire area. It's literally one of the creepiest and most sinister pathogenic organisms I've ever heard of. And I'm talking Anita Sarkeesian levels of sinister and creepy. Ellen Page plays the part of a 2-foot-high, pint-sized infant killing machine. Not that anyone asked her permission. Naughty Dog just used her face. No fucks given. This is foreshadowing, by the way. Some other actress officially played the part, but the developer naughtily decided to just steal Ellen Page's face and body and slap that on like a quick paint job. Despite her diminutive size, she happily shoots and stabs people to help Joel, her guardian. Their relationship is like a post-apocalyptical Paper Moon. No, really, it's practically fucking plagiarised from Paper Moon. Troy Baker plays the part of the grisly Joel, her paternal companion and guardian, who, despite their friendship, Ellie probably unconsciously despises because he's an old white straight male, and clearly their relationship is complicit in supporting and promoting the injustices of the patriarchy. Better kill Joel off in the sequel, I guess, despite him being likeable with good intentions. Wink wink, that's foreshadowing too. I did warn you about the spoilers. Troy Baker is well known for his critically acclaimed performances. Jack in Be Cool, Scooby-Doo, the short animated cartoon. He was in Batman. Arkham, the video game. VR. He was Talion in Middle-earth, Shadow of Loot Boxes. He starred in Call of Duty Modern Warfare as an additional voice. And perhaps he is most well known for going on social media to defend The Last of Us 2 against criticism, because he's a fucking actor and Sony pays his bills. Man's got to eat, right? So instead of questioning why Sony was engaging in copyright abuse, he decided to defend the game's plot instead.
Look, if you think that game could be spoiled by a couple screenshots, really?
Wonderful. Well, Troy said we needed to be open-minded. Don't worry, Troy. I'm keeping an open mind about how utterly fucking dreadful the game will be. The sky's the limit. I am not going to constrain my imagination on that front, fella. Don't you worry. I have only been playing The Last of Us for a few days. The original game, that is. And despite it being precisely the sort of fucky game I usually dislike, I'm actually really enjoying it. Well, it's 50% as enjoyable as Kingdom Come Deliverance, more fun than Far Cry 5, so overall I can see why most people had a positive experience with it. It's likeable, immersive, sometimes scary, and a genuinely thoughtful video game experience. It's one of those video games that makes you feel like you're in your own movie. You know, a good movie, like in the old days, before they replaced all the male protagonists with Mary Sues, because writing strong female leads is apparently too much effort for writers these days. The Last of Us Left Behind DLC. In the later expansion, the prequel storyline, apparently Ellie's character is now revised to be a lesbian because the patriarchy is evil. This raised a few plucked and unplucked eyebrows. I am not emotionally invested in this game, so I have no opinion on this. If someone wants to have underage teenage girls kissing in their video game, that's their business. Or more precisely, that's Neil Druckmann's slightly sketchy voyeuristic teen fantasy business. And possibly the local county sheriff's business too. Just saying. It's not our place to judge. Not creepy at all. All sketchiness aside though, personally and in isolation, Ellie being gay is a non-issue for me. Ellie's sexual preferences in the context of that story don't seem to have any deeper subtext. Then again, I ain't played the expansion. I think most blokes would be surprised at just how many girls have at least had a few same-sex snogs, so I'm not hitting the alarm bell over that plot factoid alone. The Last of Us 2. The Last of Us 2 is the oft-delayed, long-time-coming, much-anticipated sequel in the franchise. Basically, the plot goes something like this. Ellie is now a 2.5-foot-high, pint-sized death machine, heading off on her Mary Sue adventure to murder some religious people because they are bad. Because everyone knows all practicing Christians will set up a cult, 9 AM, day one of the apocalypse. That's a fact, according to lazy screenwriting. The developer kills off the crushingly popular hero Joel, because Naughty Dog's management supports the feminist frequency third wave Gamergate feminists, and he likes spoiling people's fun. All of this plot information puked out onto the internet recently, and now most fans think this game is going to be a horrible pile of preachy, Sarkeesian-esque fuck spew, and they are most likely going to be right. It will probably get reviews like this. 5 out of 5, Wired. Finally a game that tells it how it is. Men are evil and shit, and girls are great. 99%, Kotaku. Killing off Joel was brilliant. We all knew he was a cis white male, and he got what he deserved. Or 10 out of 10. Polygon. The penis is evil. The penis shoots seeds and makes new life and poisons the earth with a plague of men.
The penis is evil.
Sony Interactive Entertainment. Sony is a giant Japanese entertainment company that has been behaving increasingly fuck poorly over recent years. They have just adopted a video game censorship policy for sexual content, which appears to be just as strict as a religious clothing website. Not even kidding. No boobs, no nakedness, no sexual content at all. Unless it's lesbians kissing. These guys literally want to censor the tits out of Cyberpunk 2077. Well, good luck with that. That's certainly one way to lose the console war in a single video game release. Sony make video games, but really they're into money, censorship and money. Sony is a company that got rich by selling, amongst other things, creepy Japanese titty games. Now they don't need that revenue, they're banning them. Hypocrisy much? Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog are a once revered and loved video game studio whose reputation has taken a buggering of late. What used to be a bastion of game development has increasingly become a sweatshop shithole of crunch, political correctness and woke politics. The overwork is so out of control that some contractors have been expected to work 24-hour shifts, and some staff almost died because construction workers dropped some pipes down into the middle of the building during the night and almost manslaughtered developers they assumed had gone home to sleep. It's such a clusterfuck of shitty working conditions that they have approximately 70% attrition of experienced staff, and they can't hire replacement experienced staff because nobody with a choice would choose to work at Naughty Dog. One developer who left the studio recently referred to it as a joyless fuckhole run by a cadre of woke cunts. I totally made that quote up, but I'm hoping the next developer that quits his job or gets fired by Neil Druckmann for not being feminist enough decides to use my quote. And trust me, several developers leave that company every week, so I might not have to wait very long. Muzzle TNT Limited. Muzzle TNT are a shady company that specialises in software copyright solutions. From what I can gather, they operate something like this. Sony goes to Muzzle and pays them to protect their copyrighted property and tells them what they want protected. Muzzle then goes out and scours the whole world, internet or otherwise, and finds every incident of copyright infringement and strikes it down. In principle, if they are protecting legitimate copyright material, then fine. The problem, however, seems to be that they don't give a fuck whether it's copyright protected material or not. So if Sony tells them everything to do with The Last of Us 2 leaks are belong to us, Muzzle heads out into the world uncritically and hits every motherfucker with copyright strikes. No fucks given, legal or not. Recently, they've been behaving like an angry pit bull let loose in a playground. Sure, they're racking up lots of kiddie kills and earning their blood money, but the collateral damage is horrific. I'm talking, they hit a channel with a copyright strike just because they mentioned that the leaks exist. Anita Sarkeesian. Anita Sarkeesian is a third-wave feminist from Canada.
And Canada, folks treat you like a queen.
Not one of those sensible feminists who believe in equality, but one of those new, crazy as fuck feminists who want all women in video games to cover their boobs and to be ugly. She thinks all men are evil rapers and shitposts about video games at conventions and then plays the victim card when people shitpost back. A quick observation, I don't think Santa is real, but I wouldn't go to Santa's grotto and shout that opinion at the little children. Okay, I might, but I would expect the parents to get angry with me. just like Sarkeesian should expect people to get angry when she goes to gaming conventions and shits over popular game reveals. She is perfectly within her rights to do that. She has the same rights to express herself as anyone. I'm just noting that the negative reaction she provokes is predictable, understandable, and most likely precisely what she is trying to achieve. I would, however, note, freedom of speech cuts both ways, and if that's her hustle, then that's her right. Don't kick off at her or her cult if you pass them on the internet. Satire, piss take. Speak your mind, sure, but don't be horrible to her or anyone else for that matter. It makes all gamers look like arsetards. Keep it civil, folks. It's in our best interests, for reasons you'll see later. Anita has probably done more harm for the feminist cause than any male chauvinist who's ever lived, because it's due to people like her that an entire generation of men are growing up thinking feminism equals men are the biblical cause of every struggle women have to endure, and the reason behind everything wrong with the world, because patriarchy. If gaming addiction has managed to be classified as a mental illness by the World Health Organization, then it's frankly an injustice that third-wave feminist video game critique hasn't been classified as a pathological, psychotic, delusional form of fucking psychosis. Anita Sarkeesian is a professional bullshitter, agitator and curmudgeon that operates a public relations protection racket when she's not going around to gaming conventions spoiling everyone's fun by attacking everyone's favourite games, of course. And it's no fucking surprise that she has shown up lurking in the background of this censorship shitshow of woke politics. She says she loves video games when she wants your money.
In addition to being loads of fun to play, research has found that gaming can improve problem-solving skills, teamwork, creative thought, and multitasking.
She says she hates video games when she's got your money.
Except I'm doing video games. So it's not exactly a fandom. I'm not a fan of video games. I actually had to learn a lot about video games in the process of making this.
She says all games are sexist and mean because patriarchy. She makes entirely nonsensical claims about video games like Hitman rewards the player for objectifying and physically abusing sex workers because she used someone else's game footage, did not play the game herself, and didn't know that Hitman punishes the player for killing the strippers. She's an arch shitehawk. She is the only game critic that does less research than me, because at least I do some research, occasionally. She usually does none. She just cherry picks booby pics and screen grabs girls in knickers, uses someone else's game footage, and then makes pronouncements that if teenage boys play more than 4 minutes of Witcher 3, they will immediately go out and rape all women. Fact. Her public relations protection racket is quite shameless and usually goes something like this. She fires up an SJW hate campaign against some game in development because it's got boobs or nakedness in it. Then once the hate train is rolling, she offers her paid services to the developer, explaining how, if they just paid her to be a consultant on the game, she could help them during the development process to avoid problems with sexism and the representation of women, and they could neutralise all the bad publicity. Obviously, the problems she will help you avoid are usually social media shitstorms that she was involved with starting. It's a protection racket, like smashing someone's shop window in the night and then coming around in the morning and offering to protect the storekeeper for a small, regular payment. Anita Sarkeesian has famously been involved in the development of video games like Mass Effect Andromeda and The Last of Us 2. Sarkeesian's superpower is the ability to make wildly insulting and inflammatory comments about people's favourite video games and then playing the victim card when people tell her to fuck off. Well, I make wildly insulting and inflammatory comments about people's favourite video games all the time, and people tell me to fuck off too. Who would have thunk it? Although I would note, my criticism is usually much better received than hers. I guess that's probably because, unlike Anita fucking Sarkeesian, I actually play the games for a few minutes before letting word things drop out of my face hole. She went to the United Nations to demand that men be censored on the internet because sexism, and spoke such extremely highly concentrated bullshit that the UN later issued an apology for believing her nonsense and fuckery. She has also won awards from academia, the gaming industry and the gaming media. She has, however, not won any awards for the actual games she has helped develop. In fact, possibly the best way to describe Anita Sarkeesian is this: she is possibly the world's most famous, critically acclaimed and successful video game critic that makes zero effort to either play or understand video games or the people that play them. She is a fucking grifter and a professional troll. Neil Druckmann. Neil Druckmann is a key player in all of this. He is the Vice President, Creative and Narrative Director at Naughty Dog, the developers behind The Last of Us. Apparently, he has presided over such glorious video game industry moments as the time Nathan Drake got his ass kicked by a girl in Uncharted 4, writing out the male protagonists entirely from the franchise and replacing them with an all-female girl power crack team of Mary Sues. And now apparently he's doing the same with the Last of Us franchise, killing off the male protagonist and having his ass kicked by a girl. See a theme developing here? Taking games with male protagonists, having a girl kick the shit out of them and then replacing them with a female character? Look, I'm not saying women can't fight, not in the slightest. I personally know a woman who kicked the living fuck out of two guys who attacked her last week. Plenty of women can hold their own in a scrap. But as a video game trope, personally I think Neil Druckmann has some serious daddy issues to work through here. But he can show us on the doll where the bad man touched him later. We have more important shit to deal with right now. Neil Druckmann brags about sacking game testers for being sexist or not progressive enough. Well done. He brags about sacking the people doing literally the lowest paid job in the gaming industry with the worst job security and conditions. Does he punch the male white cleaner on the way out of the door to make amends for hundreds of years of white oppression? Probably. His other hobbies include being a workplace political parasite who sucks the glory from other people's achievements, sniffing around Anita Sarkeesian's skirt, and trying to earn the title of Head of Systemic Emasculation of Video Games and Minimum Wage Sackings at Naughty Dog Studios. His long-term support and adulation of Anita Sarkeesian is also highly problematic. He is blatantly crushing on her all the time, apparently involving her directly in Naughty Dog's development process and basically worshipping the ground she spits on. I don't think he is being played for a fool, mind. I think Druckmann thinks the future is woke, and sucking up to Sarkeesian will bring him woke credentials. Look, Neil Druckmann might be the nicest guy in the world who gets a lot of bad press, but fucking hell, he doesn't do himself any favours, banging on all day long about happy feels politics and women's rights, and then drums Amy Hennig out of the company, the female writer behind the success of Uncharted. My honest take for now is that he's one of those charming career sociopaths that sits in interviews virtue signalling, but God help you if he ends up becoming your boss. To quote the critical drinker,
"So what if you're basically forcing an actual real woman out of her job in video games while claiming to champion fictional women in video games? Those are sacrifices that must be made for the greater good."
HeelvsBabyface. He's a geezer, figuratively and literally. He's a geezer who has a gaming YouTube channel covering video games, comics, TV shows and movies. Generally, he discusses everything to do with entertainment in the realms of, but not confined to, games, gaming and comic culture. He is pro-gamer, pro-customer, anti-media corruption, and quite rightly thinks that mainstream gaming journalism has failed the consumer by getting into bed with the publishers, a position which I entirely agree with. He is a fairly mellow guy with inoffensive politics. He stands against wokeness and the SJW assault on popular culture. He quite correctly calls himself a bit of a lefty according to British politics. Therefore, accusing him of being some kind of right-wing firebrand is fucking nonsense. Unless of course you think that taking the piss out of that dreadful Gillette Rape Man commercial somehow qualifies someone as being a Nazi. Heels vs Babyface seems like a fairly nice, moderate, well-informed, entertaining and funny commentator. I reference him because he is the main focus of my exposure to this whole copyright scandal and has been open about proceedings as they developed. And he's also nearly lost his channel for talking about the leaks. I don't agree with everything he says, and neither should I, but I find his channel informative and interesting to watch. I'm also confident that I failed to do him justice in my description, so I strongly recommend you go and subscribe and watch some of his content and see what you think for yourselves. The DMCA strikes. These were legion and ranged from DMCA takedowns on YouTube videos, live streams and even fucking Twitter posts. So many people were hit I have not been able to list them in full. Think about that. It would take an entire video just to catalogue the full extent of the copyright abuse. So please comment below the video if you know someone who was struck, and let's all show support. Throw a sub to the affected channels and accept my apology for not being comprehensive in my coverage. There are simply too many strikes. One thing to note though, setting aside strikes for blatant, legit posting of stolen copyright game footage from the unreleased game, all the false strikes seem to be biased towards targeting channels that are aligned against what I will lazily describe as wokeness in video games. Not exclusively, but channels that tend to criticise forced identity politics in video games, wokeness, and support the claim that the mainstream gaming media is corrupt at least seem to be the primary target of the DMCA abuse, whilst other channels are being entirely left alone. The leaks. It's hard to find the exact point of origin for the leaks, but according to my 18-second internet search, the leaks were first spotted, collated in a post on Reset Era on April 26th. Someone, and we don't know who, had been releasing a fuck ton of information on the interwebs, including gameplay footage, screen grabs, a levelling list for Ellie and Abby, plot details including the ending, etc, etc. They painted a grim picture of The Last of Us 2, like Neil Druckmann had lost a drinking contest and the forfeit was letting Anita Sarkeesian write the fucking script. Who knows? Maybe that's precisely what happened. The narrative in The Last of Us 2 seems to have set off initially, at least, optimistically skipping down the road of violence begets violence, but at some point wandered off the track, got lost in the forest of misandry, and ended up falling into the swamp of woke. Depending on who you speak to, the end product seems to be something along the following lines. White male protagonists must be written out of the plot. Man violence bad. Lady violence good. Lesbian hoes before cis white bros. Or, as it was so uneloquently yet succinctly put on Reddit, Joel gets killed by a tranny with a golf club. None of this is going down well with the fans of the franchise. The poor reception to the leaks isn't going down well with the developer or the publisher. Fuck, according to Sophia Narwitz, the game journalist and transsexual, the content of the leaks isn't even going down well with gay and transsexual gamers. It's turning into a giant facepalm party, and everyone is invited. Whatever noble, aspirational goals Druckmann set out to achieve with the game, unless they change it before launch, the sophisticated narrative that resulted was men need to be punished because man bad. Lesbians are nice. You won't get any argument from me on that front. And girls are great. In fact, girls are so great, it's probably a good idea to kill off your strong male characters just in case your pint-sized female ninjas are being obscured in the shade of their awesomeness. Although you might need to hire a steroidal bodybuilder to do the evil deed, and rent a golf club to make an ironic statement about turning white privilege on itself. A little bit of sick came up when I really pondered on the awful imagery that they cooked up for the sequel. Oh God, what were they thinking? I would, however, note, so far I have not found substantive evidence to conclusively support the accusation of gender ambiguity, and more precisely, that Abby, the character who kills Joel, is actually a transsexual. Other than the fact that the body actress is built like a fucking Mack truck. This might just be a narrative flourish originating from angry fans on Reddit, just a plain transphobic pejorative, or most likely a conclusion based on the fact that she looks like she has so much testosterone and winstrol coursing through her veins that a row of penises might burst out of her back if she just strained too hard on the toilet. Personally, I think Abby is all woman. She's a bit of a tomboy, a bit conspicuously well muscled and slightly flat-chested. Well, unless you're talking about her gargantuan fucking pectoral muscles that are each bigger than my entire head. But basically, she ticks all of my boxes. Not even kidding. Anyway, who cares what she looks like? It's not a fucking beauty contest, it's the apocalypse. And besides, you can't feel ugly in the darkness of post-apocalyptical America. Although you'll probably feel a surprise penis. Trust me. The YouTube copyright system. A lot of this situation won't make sense without at least a cursory understanding of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, the DMCA, YouTube's copyright system, and how it fucks you. I mean, how it works. Most people don't appreciate just how ludicrous the YouTube copyright system is if you're an end user. It's a mutant beast born out of competing interests between YouTube, the entertainment industry, and the platform user. Here is a gross simplification of 20 plus years of legal and political history and how the Digital Millennium Copyright Act was born and how it affects YouTube. The legacy entertainment industry and others were lobbying government for draconian laws to protect itself against what it saw as an existential threat: online piracy. Online and social media industries were lobbying governments for compromise that didn't destroy their business model, i.e. high turnover, low staffing. Nobody was lobbying for the interests of the general public or the people who used online services, like YouTubers. Jumping past decades of politics and about 28 history books worth of details, the end result was YouTube's current DMCA takedown procedure, where everyone is a winner, apart from Joe Public and the YouTubers. The entertainment industry got its sweeping powers. YouTube got a system that was automated, hands-off, and operated well at scale. YouTubers got a dick in the fucking ear. Here is how it works on a practical level. Someone sets up a YouTube channel. If a third party decides they have reasonable suspicion you have infringed their copyright, they fill in an online YouTube form, click go, and the video is struck down immediately. The video is either removed or seized by the person complaining, including potential revenue. The YouTuber has to issue a counter notice, exposing themselves to potential prosecution. The complainant has 10 working days to respond by either backing down or providing YouTube with evidence that they are preparing to prosecute under DMCA regulations. If the complainant backs down, then the YouTuber gets their video back eventually, which takes up to 2 weeks. They get fucked, basically, with no compensation, and all they can do is sue the complainant for lost revenue. If the complainant stands by their claim, then everybody is now locked in a legal process costing up to $100,000 a pop to fight in court. Sometimes less, sometimes many times more. If a YouTuber gets 3 strikes, then they are out. Seriously, get 3 strikes in a 6-month period and your channel is deleted, until such time as they are countered or beaten in court. If you can't beat the strikes, then it's game over. And even if you do, you lose complete access to your channel and your videos whilst you fight the strikes. The system works brilliantly for YouTube because they are not legally liable for anything. It costs them practically nothing to operate, and it's automated. The system works brilliantly for people filing complaints because it's an easy click-through 3-minute solution for dealing with copyright issues. It's instant, and there's no burden of proof. That's right, nobody has ever been convicted of filing a false DMCA notice because the complainant only has to have reasonable suspicion copyright has been violated. It's fucking ridiculous. I learnt that on Hoeg's Law channel, by the way. Unfortunately, it does not work well for YouTubers who live under the constant threat of spurious and malicious false DMCA strikes, which usually have zero consequences for the perpetrator. Fuck, some companies literally make a living just abusing the copyright process to blackmail creators into giving them token payments to lift false DMCA strikes. The bottom line is this: everyone gets an easy ride apart from the innocent YouTuber falsely accused. They get the worst of all outcomes, and here's why. If you get a false strike and you successfully file a counter notification, you still get your video fucked over for up to 2 weeks. If you get a false strike from an individual, then that individual can get sued for damages, and it can work out very badly for a private individual abusing the system. But if a corporation decides to fuck with you, there is a crushing power disparity and the YouTuber is fucked. If, say, Sony decides to hit you with 3 entirely bogus bullshit copyright strikes, your channel gets pulled down and deleted until such time as either Sony drops the claims or you beat Sony in court. Let that sink in. If a multi-billion-dollar corporation decides to abuse the copyright system, even where they have no genuine claim, the YouTuber has to fight and win each court battle, costing maybe $100,000 per pop, per video, and if they win, there is no guarantee the YouTuber will be awarded their costs back afterwards. For the average YouTuber, having a corporation come after you means a legal bill few people can afford. It's an abuser's charter. Literally. The whole game is stacked in the favour of the person making the false claim. Usually the best defence is to raise awareness of the copyright abuse so it creates a stink for the corporation and they back down because of the bad publicity. On rare occasions, YouTube will step in. But make no mistake, the DMCA system means different things to different people. If you are under 100,000 subscribers, you're just fucked. YouTube might not even answer your emails. They certainly won't overturn a false DMCA strike, even if it's obviously false and malicious. If you're over 100,000 subscribers, you have a channel manager who might help a bit. But if you're Jake Paul with 20 million subscribers, allegedly, you can go to a Japanese forest and laugh at dead bodies, film yourself encouraging looters, and do whatever the fuck you like. YouTube will give you a hall pass. And ain't no fucker gonna take your channel off air by giving you copyright strikes. Furthermore, most corporations will avoid trying to strike down your channel if you're that big because of the potential for an immediate bad PR dogpile. And even if they do, you can bet your ass Jake Paul's channel won't be automatically taken down with 3 false strikes. The power disparity is the real issue here, because whatever the law says, whoever is in the right, and regardless if the rules, contracts or the end user license agreements are legally binding or unenforceable, if you are Joey Rando and some mega corporation decides to target your channel with false and malicious DMCA strikes, you are highly likely to be fucked over, because 99% of winning a civil court case is money. If you can't afford the court case, you settle, bend over, or get pushed over and buggered out of existence. For the average YouTuber, your only chance of survival is leveraging bad publicity at the abusing corporation. And in a very sinister turn, Sony has started targeting those videos too. Well, that's it for part 1 of this Tolkien-esque, rambling odyssey of corporate abuse and shit foolery. In the next part, we'll be taking a look at, amongst other things, some of the history of corporate copyright abuse in the video game industry, the full horror of Sony and Naughty Dog's transgressions, and some very curious coincidences that I stumbled across during my investigations. Coincidences that are so spectacularly weird and fucked up, they may end up explaining why Naughty Dog Studios, under the influence of Neil Druckmann, ended up stumbling down such a dark path of censorship, media manipulation, dishonesty, and identity politics. Oh, and someone just told me that apparently the term tomboy is now incredibly problematic, and I might get cancelled just for saying it. Although I felt that the way they said it to me constituted being a microaggression, so I might have to go to my safe space to recover. Safe space / killing room. But for now, good luck and happy hunting. Big guns. Pro golfing tips. Corporate bullying. Self-indulgent crybabies. Liars. Stolen faces. Stolen songs. Stolen memes. Welcome to part 2 of The Last of Us 2 copyright abuse scandal, where Sony stole all the memes. Spoiler warning. This video contains extreme spoilers for the Last of Us franchise. So if you don't like spoilers, and you don't want to know which character in The Last of Us 2 turns out to be the android, then stop watching now. Needless to say, it's time for us to crack on with this fingertip forensic search of the paraphernalia drawer of the corporate power junkies. We just have to rifle through the hypodermics as best we can without getting hot-sticked in the process. So without further ado, let's crack on with our analysis of just how blatantly and arrogantly Sony and Naughty Dog have tried to privatise independent reporting and ring-fence the internet as their own private domain. A brief history of copyright abuse in video games. Copyright abuse on YouTube is rife, and the examples are endless, but here are a few cases that came on my radar. Low-level abuse happens all the time. Some companies, not limited to Electronic Arts, Capcom and Nintendo, enter their gameplay trailers and cutscenes into the YouTube Automated Content ID system, so they automatically claim the revenue of your video, even if it's fair use, or being used transformatively. Some companies like Nintendo manually claim videos off YouTubers just to steal the advertising revenue. Combine this with the increasingly popular practice of enshrining IP ownership and the rules of conduct and unlimited sanctions in end-user license agreements, and it's the perfect trifecta for abuse. It threatens liberty, property, freedom of speech, and constitutes a huge legal overreach. And all the video game companies seem to be jumping on this bandwagon. Other companies like Gaijin, who make War Thunder, have had a history of abusing DMCA to bully critics of the game. Most of the time this goes unreported, but occasionally it goes public and they make a huge deal of claiming it was all an innocent accident, a misunderstanding, or just hide behind the end-user license agreement. And I'm talking about hitting a channel with multiple strikes, then getting lawyers to bully the YouTuber to sign over ownership of their channel to Gaijin. Alkan after, a big Russian YouTuber, almost lost his entire business, but luckily didn't sign over his channel ownership despite being bullied every 20 minutes over the phone through the night by lawyers phoning him up and threatening him. And no, don't believe that bullshit cover story that it was one rogue individual and one isolated incident. DMCA abuse is systemic at Gaijin, despite their attempts to cover it up or justify events retrospectively. That's why some big YouTubers like the mighty Jingles virtually stopped making War Thunder videos. It just wasn't worth the hassle of dealing with those arseholes, and it's why I don't ever cover the game, despite genuinely enjoying playing it. Even Wargaming, who make World of Tanks, have abused the DMCA process to threaten Sir Fosh, a superb content creator. They backed down due to community uproar, and Wargaming are considered to be nice guys. Well, by corporate standards at least. I honestly love World of Tanks and I have a soft spot for Wargaming. Not even kidding. I like those guys. And even they can behave shamelessly at times. Eroctic, an Escape from Tarkov YouTuber, got hit with 47 forced DMCA strikes and Battlestate Games for simply highlighting a flaw in their security. Luckily, due to outrage from the community and gaming YouTubers, they desisted and he got his channel back. If he hadn't made the headlines, he would, however, probably just have disappeared. Borderlands 3, Sup Matto, and this one is the kicker. The treatment of Sup Matto set a precedent that video game publishers could use legal bullying and abuse of the DMCA process on YouTube to silence freedom of speech. When 2K Games accidentally leaked details of their own game during their own stream test, when Sup Matto posted them, the publisher sent private investigators around to his house to bully him. After he publicly complained about the bullying, he received 112 copyright strikes and ended up having to fold. His channel is deleted and he has disappeared. His entire social media footprint is erased. They claimed he was under investigation for violating terms of service, codes of conduct and using illegal means to secure leaks. But I call bullshit. 2K Games and Gearbox made lots of noises about how he broke the rules, but really, they just abused the DMCA process to exterminate a YouTuber that embarrassed them and publicised their own mistakes. The sea change with The Last of Us 2 copyright strikes is that now a publisher seems to have decided to abandon subtlety or discretion. They have suddenly decided to take the fight out into the streets and make no pretense that that's not what they're doing. They're no longer balancing effectiveness with bad PR. They're no longer bothering with a cover story or a smokescreen. They are openly striking down videos maliciously. They are openly striking down videos with zero copyrighted material. They are openly striking down tweets, memes, and comments on social media. They are using their superior financial resources to legally bully content creators. They are sending one very fucking loud message. They don't care if their actions are justified, legal, or operating within their own or YouTube's rules. If anyone says anything they don't like, they will fucking attack you. No fucks given.
If he didn't use any materials from anywhere, this is a complete and absolute slam dunk easy abuse case to bring against Sony.
They're not even making excuses or offering a cover story. They're openly censoring the internet, abusing YouTube's own rules, and don't care that everyone on the internet knows that's exactly what they're fucking doing. They're acting outside of the strict rule of law, regulations, or both. They are breaking the rules to force people into silence, and they want people to know that is what they're doing. This is open warfare. Sony's new rules of engagement are: there are no rules of engagement anymore. We are big, you are small, and we will fucking crush you. The common theme amongst all incidences of DMCA abuse is this: community and online outrage is the most successful and effective way to stop DMCA abuse by large corporations. Perhaps the only way, because large corporations have deep pockets and lawyers on retainer, so unless you are Jake fucking Paul or PewDiePie, You had better hope people drum up enough public support, else you are going to get fucked. Even if you're innocent. And that is precisely what happened to Sup Matto. Sup Matto's DMCA strikes were not a justified tactic for dealing with the situation, because he did not violate copyright. 2K leaked the information, but they hit him anyway, and because there wasn't enough outrage, Sup Matto got crushed. The timeline-ish of the copyright abuse scandal. The Last of Us 2 leaks went public, apparently on April 26th, and were documented on a Reset Era post. The leaks spread like wildfire to other social media sites, and included a level list and footage that appeared to be from an early internal build of the game. YouTubers and commentators started discussing them and showing them. Jesus, these leaks blew up all over the fucking internet. Of course they did. YouTube, websites, social media, forum posts, the official Last of Us subreddit, which has since banned discussing leaks. Note how they didn't ban spoilers. They banned any discussion of leaks, even if they were marked as spoilers. Subtle distinction, but I'm sure you can see what I'm driving at. Then people started getting hit with DMCA manual copyright strikes or takedown notices across the whole of social media for showing leaked footage, disclosing and discussing the leaks, which were now in the public domain. Artist Storm Yorha got a DMCA strike from Sony for tweeting about leaks, and in one instance, someone got their Twitter account censored just for mentioning the fucking leaks existed. In an even more sinister turn, people started getting DMCA strikes for criticising the DMCA strikes and criticising the content of the leaks. HeelvsBabyface got multiple copyright strikes for discussing the leaks. Geeks and Gamers got a copyright strike for discussing Sony's copyright abuse. Geeks and Gamers just had their Twitter account banned for posting a Last of Us 2 meme. So many people got hit with DMCA takedowns I can't even begin to list or research them all. This shit went fucking nuclear almost instantly. In fact, this shit went so nuclear that Sony Interactive Entertainment gave themselves a fucking copyright strike for the Last of Us 2 trailer. Fucking idiots. Initially, the strikes appear to have come from Muzzle TNT Limited, and Sony and Naughty Dog pretended it had nothing to do with them and pleaded innocence. Then when people started to issue counter notifications, Sony's name was on the response. Oh dear, busted. Muzzle TNT turned out to be a proxy copyright company hired by Sony and Naughty Dog to erase all mention of the leaks on the internet, and they took that mission statement quite literally. So on top of all the other crimes, Naughty Dog and Sony had bullshitted about their involvement. Initially, Sony claimed it was a disgruntled employee at Naughty Dog that leaked the info. Later, they changed their story to claim they were hacked. Now Sony is stating it was none of these things. The source came from outside the company and they can't talk about it because of an ongoing investigation. An excuse that could mean anything. They could have left a laptop open at a furry convention, or just did a shit job of keeping secrets. One thing is certain. All of the excuses that Sony initially peddled as facts have all thus far turned out to be, by Sony's own admission, bullshit and factually not facts at all. So just to emphasise one point, Sony thus far has lied about being involved with the copyright strikes and offered two explanations of the leaks, which they presented as facts, which later they admitted were not true. So the one fact that you can take away from this video is this: Sony tells lies. YouTube, to their credit, actually started putting videos back up on the platform, although the copyright claims remained intact because that's not their domain. HeelvsBabyface then discovered that Sony's strike was legally indefensible, as they had claimed the whole video, which was a factual error on Sony's behalf. He counterclaimed. Sony backed down, kind of, and for now at least has dropped its claims for some YouTubers. For now, it's hard to tell who is okay and who is still fucked. It's worth noting, Naughty Dog / Sony pushed back the release date again in the wake of these leaks. The leaks could theoretically be complete bullshit and totally fake. The leaks might be 100% true, and Sony delayed the launch to re-edit the ending. The leaks, for all we know, might be some contrived, preemptive misinformation ambush launched by Sony. The truth could be somewhere in the middle of all of this fucking mess. And most importantly of all, and critical to this entire multifaceted debacle, and I quote,
I want y'all to know the comment that I got spoiled on, this fucking asshole. He was like, Joel gets killed by a tranny with a golf club.
The reaction, fallout, backlash, and implications. It is safe to say that so far the information revealed in the leaks has gone down about as well as a large glass of toilet bowl water spruced up with ice cubes made from tramp's piss. The critical reception has been almost universal outrage, disappointment, and despair. An army of gamers are waiting, poised to review bomb the fuck out of this game. I have no doubt that there is also an army of mainstream game journalists already primed, read bribed, to heap praise on it, just before heaping scorn on all of the gamers that criticise it. It's like watching two opposing medieval armies take positions before a battle. It's worth noting that the critical reaction when the game is finally released will be tempered by multiple factors, and this needs to be picked apart. The leaks themselves, Sony's abusive attempts to cover up the leaks, Sony's abusive attempts to cover up criticism, the full extent of the identity politics. The leaks themselves will transform the way people experience the game. Knowing critical plot details ain't going to make the experience more enjoyable. But that aside, a lot of people are going to be primed to be pissed off, just waiting for biased confirmation that Naughty Dog ruined their beloved franchise. Then again, if the leaks are correct, I'm confident that most Last of Us fans will have their experience of the game thoroughly ruined right at the moment they realise that the game is a bit shit. Oh, and when they find out that Joel gets killed off by an unknown, gender non-conforming character with a golf club. For obviously contrived reasons that have more to do with Neil Druckmann's aspirations to become an identity politics firebrand than any sense of logic based in good story writing. Sony's DMCA abuse and assault on free speech has frankly sucked a lot of the joy and magic out of this franchise for many people. Plenty of people want this game to be shit now, and they will gleefully revel in its failure. They will be looking for any confirmation of shitness they can find. Add to all of this that we still don't know just how badly this game has been suffused with Sarkeesian-esque identity politics, and it will be released into an environment where there will be an extremely low tolerance for any. I think it's safe to say that Naughty Dog and Sony have screwed the fucking pooch on this one. The leaks will spoil the first-time player experience for many. True or not, killing one of the most well-liked characters in video games will alienate much of the audience. Attacking YouTubers, commentators, and free speech on the internet has galvanised hostility towards the game before it's even launched. And the identity politics has provided the absolute perfect target for that hostility. I mean, seriously, killing off Joel? What the fuck were they thinking? That would be like killing off Agent Dale Cooper at the start of Season 2 of Twin Peaks, for fuck's sake. What the actual fuck was Druckmann thinking? There is something shockingly arrogant and vainglorious about this calibre of utter stupidity. Personally, I think this is a classic case of someone playing to the audience they want to have and not playing to the audience they actually have. It's like watching a wedding photographer working on a porn shoot. Nobody wants an ensemble photograph with all the parents in the shot. Druckmann is playing to the wrong fucking crowd. He's playing to his fantasy audience that he thinks he will attract with this game. And like so many people before him, he's failed to appreciate that the sort of people obsessed with identity politics and political correctness don't buy fucking video games. They only bitch about them on social media. He's marketing a fucking game to precisely the people who won't be buying it. The general reception amongst the YouTube community to Sony's DMCA abuse has been condemnation. False copyright strikes are the bane of YouTube. They're a fucking plague, propagated by shitheads and usually invite almost universal anger and hatred within the gaming community. Respectable YouTubers only use it as the nuclear option, even when they're within their rights. Personally, I'm a bastard. I don't pick fights, but I certainly try and end them when someone picks a fight with me. But I have never hit anyone with a copyright strike for two very fucking valid reasons. One, it's just not even occurred to me that it was a legitimate and valid tactic to use. And two, you just don't do it. There's rules even in war, and there's never justification to try and sweep the legs of someone like that. Argue, fight, shitpost, sure, but false flagging for DMCA is a horrific abuse of the system and might damage someone's business. They might have kids to feed or a sick granny. Having disagreements is one thing, but it's an unwritten rule you keep the match on the pitch. As HeelvsBabyface rightfully pointed out in a recent video, whatever the outcome with the false copyright strikes, they certainly have already achieved Sony's desired goal. The mainstream gaming news media cowered and shit itself. They've avoided covering the fake copyright strikes and widely reported only Sony's official press releases about the leaks. It was only the independent YouTubers and outlets kicking up a storm, and thank God they still exist to do that. Sony flexed its muscles, and the mainstream media, hungry to retain its privileged access, pre-release copies and advertising revenue, cowered and tucked their collective heads in like a scolded poodle. What fucking good are they to gamers if they obey the publishers? That was not a rhetorical question. That was a real question. What fucking good are they to us? If publishers run mainstream gaming journalism, then they have zero utility to gamers. In fact, I would say they do more harm than good. A bent journalist is worse than no journalist at all. Ultimately, The Last of Us 2 could theoretically be the best game of the decade, and a huge amount of people won't fucking care. They're going to hate on this game anyway. The negative publicity surrounding the copyright abuse has created a toxic environment for Naughty Dog, and now they're damned whatever happens. If the leaks turn out not to be true, I still think they will have a huge issue with review bombing and negative bias towards the game. If the leaks are true, then Naughty Dog has lost the fucking plot, and the game could indeed be terribly, terribly awful indeed. So let's analyse this and see how this whole shit show is substantively different from events that have come before. Well, right off the bat, it's a bit hypocritical that Naughty Dog, a game studio that blatantly ripped off Ellen Page's likeness in The Last of Us, has the gall to cry foul on any copyright issue. That is hypocritical, not to mention as cheeky as fuck. Hang on, that geezer looks a lot like Bronn from Game of Thrones, right? Must be another Naughty Dog coincidence. Oh, hang on again, Naughty Dog used someone's arrangement of that cover and didn't offer to pay them royalties. That must be yet another Naughty Dog coincidence. Wow, considering Naughty Dog's involvement with copyright abuse, you'd think they would set a higher standard, really. Just saying. I will say now, I don't personally take issue with the sexual identity aspects in the franchise. It's their video game, they can do what they want. I don't think gamers really care about sexual identity in itself. Fallout New Vegas, Skyrim and a host of other popular mainstream games have gay characters or let the player have gay relationships, and they never raised a single eyebrow or generated player complaint. Some of the gay characters like Arcade Gannon are well loved. The Last of Us did have a gay hillbilly couple in it, and we met one half of the couple in the shape of Bill, Joel's quasi-semi-friend. In The Last of Us DLC, Ellie is portrayed as gay, and now according to the leaks, The Last of Us 2 continues with the same themes of gay relationships, so I don't think it's as simple as saying The Last of Us 2 is a case of get woke, go broke. It's always been a bit woke. Gamers don't mind gay characters, politics or social issues in games. People seem to forget that most gamers are just people. They didn't make us in a fucking secret underground biolab. We're just normal people who play video games. Some of us are straight, gay, transsexual, nice, nasty, hardcore, softcore, and we come from all over the world. The stereotype of the gamer is precisely that, a stereotype, and most gamers hold the same views as most normal people. You can't assume gamers are automatically homophobic, racist and sexist. Most of the gamers I've personally known over the years have tended to be pleasant, tolerant, friendly and compassionate people. They do, however, mind having political agendas pushed up into their fucking grills and being moralised to when they've just stumped up 50 quid for some escapist entertainment. They also mind when franchises they love get destroyed by woke politics. If people want to make woke, preachy, shitty, politically correct third-wave feminist games, knock yourself out. Just stop taking existing franchises like Mass Effect and Battlefield and converting them into shit pies of wokeness, please. Make your own shitty preachy games and stop spoiling ours. If people want to play with dollies, great, go and make dollies and play with them. Just don't take away our action men and force us to play with dollies too. All this being said, we have to acknowledge that we have no idea what the final game will be like, and if it will be changed in the wake of the uproar over the leaks. So we all need to reserve judgment to some degree. And yes, that is code for don't fucking pre-order. There are definite parallels here between Gamergate and the noxious behaviour of both Neil Druckmann's legacy of male character destruction and the reaction of the gaming industry. Just like the narrative of the traditional gamer is dead from Gamergate, in microcosm this narrative is being parroted in Naughty Dog's treatment of its characters. They are systematically delighting in removing the traditional male heroes from their games and replacing them with woke female counterparts. It's like Neil Druckmann is trying to win the battles of Gamergate vicariously in his video games that they essentially lost in real life. If he can't kill off the traditional gamer, well, at least he can use his authority to kill off their favourite male characters. This conduct is sinister and narcissistic on so many levels. And let's be honest here, Druckmann red flags for narcissism on many levels. He seems more obsessed with his role as a feminist than he does about the end result of his games. Nobody is paying him to piss off the customers. He has one job: make games that appeal to gamers. And he is fucking that job right up. I would also note that I'm concerned this situation will be twisted and used as a further example of the Gamergate controversy. This is a copyright abuse scenario, but you can bet your arse that is not how it will be reported later. The mainstream media will focus on the outrage about the gender issues in the game and use that as a focus for justifying Sony's heavy-handed approach. Let's face it, what are the common themes we are hearing about the leaks? Joel gets killed by a tranny with a golf club, the game's gone woke, outrage at the insertion of identity politics. Certain parties in the gaming industry, the sort of people who hate the traditional gamer, whatever the fuck that is, they will revel and delight in telling stories about this situation. Only their versions will go like this. Traditional gamers kicked off, just like in Gamergate, because they don't like lesbians, strong female characters and gender non-conforming characters in video games. They will cherry pick quotes, take comments out of context, and instead of saying Sony abused DMCA regulations, they will say this is Gamergate all over again, and they will pick out any homophobic slur they find on the internet and hold it up in the air and screech, "That's what this was really all about." It's no fucking accident that certain channels are being hit with forced DMCA strikes just for mentioning the leaks, whilst other channels are not. They are specifically targeting channels that could be seen to be aligned with the Gamergate position that mainstream gaming media is corrupt and woke politics are being forced into video games. Apolitical commentators are being left conspicuously untouched. Belula News and Yongyi have happily reported on this with no strikes, and Belula News has even commented that certain channels seem to be getting a hall pass, whilst other channels are being struck down mercilessly. To coin a phrase, I'm getting a bit concerned that this is a trap.
It's a trap. It's too late to go back.
For me, I think the most significant aspect of all of this is Sony and Naughty Dog openly and shamelessly employing corporate bullying to silence and scare honest, critical reporting. This is despicable and must be opposed. This is not some fringe outfit being a bit cheeky here. This is corporate copyright abuse going mainstream. This is the formalisation and normalisation of corporate bullying and corporate censorship of the internet. This is not just an attack on fair use, this is a direct full-scale assault on freedom of expression. Sony basically took the stance that they would not tolerate certain people talking about certain things in public. So with no regard to copyright law, the First Amendment or plain common fucking decency, Sony and Naughty Dog just decided to abuse whatever mechanisms were in place to strike down voices on the internet using abusive and harmful measures, just because frankly, they could. Oh yes, and because they have a huge army of lawyers on retainer, so even if they ended up acting outside the law, they could still drag people through the courts until such time as they were bankrupt.
Naughty Dog and Sony were going around copyright striking and DMCA takedown of videos, memes, everything. Not only on YouTube, it was on Twitter, it was on Reddit, it was on BitChute, it was everywhere.
Sony have spilled this fight out into the streets and have no fucks to give about who is legally right. Might is fucking right according to them, and they have shown their hand. They are prepared to openly abuse YouTube mechanisms, falsely copyright claim creators' videos, risk shutting down people's channels and businesses, use disproportionate force and knowingly and dishonestly try and censor public domain information as if it were somehow private corporate property. Sony has no legal right to claim public discourse is their private property, and everyone should be very alarmed that this is what they are doing. To draw an analogy, this is like that bit in the TV series Van Helsing, where the vampires suddenly stopped operating in the shadows and just started running around in the streets, biting every last fucker they saw. I shit you not, the corporations are going to push until they are pushed back. If they don't encounter significant opposition, you can kiss independent journalism goodbye, along with every independent, non-shill YouTube channel you watch. This is the real fucking deal, guys. This is now a shooting war. This is the corporate endgame playing out right now, and if it isn't resisted, the future of gaming channels is going to be confined to publisher-approved shills, reading from a script of key talking points, all telling you how super stoked they are about the new game and how wonderful the microtransactions look. Let's be fucking pragmatic here. A huge amount of the gaming channels are already exactly like that. But that just makes it even more important that we defend the independent ones that remain. You know, the reviewers who don't get review copies in advance, don't get invited to meet Todd Howard, don't get invited to Viking activity day centres in Norway, and don't lie to you because their careers are more important than your well-being, your money, and the trust you've invested in them. For anyone who has stuck with this video throughout its entirety, I'm going to reward you for having such stoic resolve and masochistic tendencies. There is a punchline to this entire saga. In fact, the seed from which this entire copyright shitshow grew, I think can be traced all the way back to 2011. And funnily enough, Neil Druckmann. This is a sorry tale of vanity, damage limitation, and folly driving more folly. But in order to make my empirical case, I think, ladies and gentlefucks, we need to stroll on over to 21 kilotons fucking science lab and apply yet more logic to these events to see what gets thrown up. 10th of December 2011, The Last of Us revealed at the Video Game Awards, and Ellie is stealing Ellen Page's likeness. 14th of June 2013, The Last of Us is released, with Ellie's appearance slightly changed to be less like Ellen Page. 14th of February 2014, The Last of Us Left Behind DLC was released, rewriting the character Ellie as gay. 14th of February 2014, the very same day, Ellen Page comes out publicly as gay. 20th of March 2014, Game Developers Choice Awards 2014 give their Ambassador Award to Anita Sarkeesian. And guess who personally fucking hands it to her? Neil fucking Druckmann.
The Ambassador Award honors an individual who has helped the game industry advance to a better place. Anita Sarkeesian's work has done just that. A feminist and a media critic, Anita is a fan of popular culture. She loves video games. She's so passionate about them that she feels they're worth fighting for.
I'm not a fan of video games. I actually had to learn a lot about video games in the process of making this. I'm not a fan of video games. I'm not a fan of video games.
That timeline is pretty odd, right? That's pretty fucked up. Neil Druckmann is head chief and boss man on a video game, stealing the likeness of Ellen Page. Ellen Page's sexuality was starting to be discussed around this time, and as an industry insider, I think Neil Druckmann may have got wind of the fact that Ellen Page was in fact gay. Neil Druckmann may have suddenly realised that he could well be remembered as that cis white male that appropriated the likeness and stole the money of what could become a very famous lesbian icon. I think Neil Druckmann was so fucking terrified that he would eventually get cancelled for this at some point in the future that he has tried to become the poster boy for social justice and political correctness. Critically, I think he found out that Ellen Page was gay before she came out publicly. And here is why. Ellen Page was pissed at The Last of Us for stealing her image, particularly because she was working on another video game at the time, Beyond Two Souls. Imagine that. She's just sold her likeness to one game developer, and now another game developer is just stealing it. Imagine that law case. Imagine those guys suing each other. And why didn't it happen? Sony seems to love pursuing people over copyright. Well, here is why it didn't happen. The Last of Us, developed by Naughty Dog, published by Sony Computer Entertainment. Beyond Two Souls, developed by Quantic Dream, published by Sony Computer Entertainment. Let's take a look at that timeline again. Pissed off about having her image stolen in The Last of Us, I think Ellen Page reached out via Sony to Neil Druckmann, who was working for Sony, and they came up with a deal which would satisfy both parties, provide restitution, and avoid a messy situation where basically different arms of the same corporation would end up suing itself. I don't think for a fucking second that it is a coincidence that Ellen Page came out publicly as gay on the exact same fucking day they released a DLC where the character that stole her image comes out as gay. That's like two people firing a shot at each other and their bullets hitting mid-air. This could essentially be a 9-year odyssey of damage limitation that has cost jobs, threatened YouTube channels and resulted in a beloved franchise being trashed, all potentially springing from Neil Druckmann's self-serving quest to atone for stealing a lesbian's face in 2011. How tragic is that? Druckmann is trashing a franchise, his own legacy, and sucking around the ankles of Anita Sarkeesian just to rehabilitate himself so he doesn't get cancelled for potentially infringing on the copyright of a lesbian icon in 2011. Was it worth it? Well, no. He's not going to have much of a career to save very soon. As I said, folly driving folly. Obviously I can't prove any of this, so for now I'm going to be like Jerry Fletcher in the movie Conspiracy Theory. People will assume that I'm mad, right up until the moment the black helicopters are seen hovering over my house, with Sony logos on them. There is a possibility that Ellen Page might tell me herself precisely what happened if she goes out on a date with me next week. I totally catfished her, and I reckon I've tricked her into going out for a drink with me. Here's the message I left on her answer phone. My name is Mary, and I am very, very pretty. Do you fancy coming to a roller derby with me? We can go halves on the tickets, because I believe in equality and all that shite. And I am absolutely, totally not a geezer. Personally, I reckon I nailed it. How can she resist, right? I'll let you know how I get on next week. I can't stress enough I'm standing on the shoulders of giants with this video. Other people have taken the risks already, taken on Sony and Naughty Dog and done the research. I'm just riding their coattails and giving you my take, and flagging up what I think is the core issue with these events. Sony have now come out and declared all-out war on free speech, independent YouTubers and unbiased reporting. This is no longer a simmering conflict. Sony have fired the first shots in a war, and I'm not convinced this genie is going back into the bottle. It is critically important that right now everyone does whatever they can to increase the negative consequences for Sony and Naughty Dog. Whether you're a gamer, YouTuber, podcaster, video game journalist, or just one of the denizens of the internet who values free speech, we all have to pull together and unite in our opposition against Sony's censorial shitshow. Do it out of a sense of community, humanity, kinship, kindness, intellectual principle, consumer advocacy, or simply because they attacked a content creator you like. I give zero fucks about why you are doing it, but you must do it. And if you don't have a reason, here's one. Selfish, self-interested self-preservation. Mark my words, today they're going after these other guys. Next year, they might be after you. Christ, it won't be long before private individuals are regularly getting sued for copyright violations on fucking Twitter. Just because a giant corporation wants to make an example of someone. If people are frightened into silence now, we might sleepwalk into a future where we are all permanently silenced. Behave in a civil and legal manner, but where there is a place to express your opinion, leave a comment or make a review, and politely spell out the heinous values that Sony, Naughty Dog and The Last of Us 2 represent. Stay nice, stay legal, behave decently, but kick off about it. We are sleepwalking into a future where we don't own the games we buy, we don't own the footage we capture, we have to sign egregious and abusive contracts just to play video games, we could be prosecuted for posting negative reviews on forums, we could be sued for copyright for discussing leaks on social media, independent and impartial YouTubers could be drummed off the platform. The publisher will have total control over who can and who can't make videos about their games, and ultimately, the only video game YouTubers with permission to show game footage will be paid shills working to promote products. This is the future video game publishers envisage. A world where you can't even show game footage or even the company's logo if you are not working for them. Sony has frankly provided irrefutable evidence that game publishers seek complete and total dominion over the internet and freedom of expression, and they are no longer even trying to conceal that ambition. Personally, I consider Sony and Naughty Dog to be enemies of free speech, enemies of YouTubers and hostile to the gaming community. They want our money, and they don't care if they ruin lives, distort the truth or break the internet to do it. Fuck these guys, fuck their censorship, and fuck their anti-porn hypocrisy. Oh, but don't you worry. Whilst I will be largely avoiding Sony products for the time being, I will make a very special exception for The Last of Us 2, just so I can give it an honest, fair and unbiased roasting. I mean review. Nah, I didn't mean that. I'm gonna fucking roast that pile of shit. I finished half the review already. Who needs to actually play the fucking game? I've read all about the leaks. But for now, good luck and happy hunting.
Honestly, in 30 years of gaming, I think this is the most despicable, disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life.
Let me help you in 2 screenshots. And he shows how Naughty Dog is part of Sony Interactive Entertainment, and then Muso's clients is Sony Interactive Entertainment.
This was clearly a message. 3 strikes, you're out, we'll silence you, we'll pull your channel down.
And you have them squeezing down on this channel for no other reason than they can. And they know it will be too difficult to really, truly fight against it.
We're talking about them trying to take down my channel that has been here for 10 years over 1 fucking frame.
This is the time to stand up and be counted with the rest of the gamers out there who are being fucking persecuted by these fucking companies. So get off your fucking arse, get your fucking microphones out and start making a video of solidarity to fellow content creators and gamers who are being fucking struck down by these. Honestly, what a world we live in.